This is such a crazy paradox. I remember when I first started learning about this and understanding how these conditions worked, my head pretty much exploded because when you're first facing this, it is all very confusing and very terrifying. I remember when I first got chronic fatigue syndrome, and I didn't know it was that yet. I thought it was a flu that just didn't seem to be going away. And then every day, every week, I was having these flu-like symptoms that would sort of like get worse and then get a little bit better. I just generally didn't feel well. But then, let me know in the comments if this sounds familiar, I started getting all these other strange symptoms on top of what I already had. Some I'd never had before, definitely not related to a flu. Everything from sensitivity to light and smells and sound to food intolerances that seemed to pop up one by one until I got to the point where it felt like virtually every bite of food I put in my mouth made me feel worse. And dizziness and cognitive symptoms. I was having memory problems. It was hard to think. I was having like GI issues, sleep problems, just like weird pains, headaches, nausea, just all over the map. And it felt like, I don't know what's going on, but this is really scary because whatever I have is clearly getting worse and worse and worse because I'm just getting more symptoms and more symptoms. And everything I've learned in my life has taught me that this means I'm going the wrong direction. And this is just getting more serious pretty much by the week. And then like very well-intentioned doctors that I'd see once I moved into the alternative medicine space, I started getting all these diagnoses. It seemed like everything in my body was shutting down all at once. I had chronic fatigue syndrome. I had chronic Lyme disease. I had Epstein-Barr. I had adrenal fatigue. I had leaky gut syndrome. I had candida overgrowth in my gut. I had hormonal imbalances. And that's just off at the top of my head. I'm sure it was more and more and more. And in a way, it made sense because I thought, well, this justifies why I'm feeling so terribly. But then it also, like looking back, I'm like, how does that make sense? How did virtually overnight my whole body start to shut down and every organ and every system I have stop working and suddenly I'm just be in this dire state? It really feels like, wow, I'm very quickly reaching the point of no return. Oh, how I wish I had a time machine to go back in time and explain to myself what I'm about to explain to you right now. There is something with these conditions known as the symptom imperative. And this is a term that was coined by Dr. John Sarno. He is a pioneer in mind-body medicine, started out with theories with his patients, confirmed over decades of practice and seeing this come true time and time again. And then in recent decades, we have backed this up by science. And essentially what the symptom imperative is that the way symptoms present themselves in conditions that he called tension myoneural syndrome, or TMS. We hear this called many different things these days: mind-body conditions, functional disorders, neuroplastic pain, psychophysiological conditions, whatever you call it. But when nervous system dysregulation is at the core of what's going on, symptoms can show up in any and every way. It doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter how severe they are. It doesn't matter if they come and go or change or move around. It's a natural and normal part of having these conditions. And even how many symptoms you have doesn't matter. In fact, if you have a really long list of symptoms, chances are this is actually a really good sign for you. And the reason that this is great news is because it's really unlikely, statistically speaking, that you had a multi-systemic full body shutdown that happened really fast, that brought on all these different symptoms and all these different, broken or damaged or diseased parts of your body all over the place. If you have this many symptoms coming and going and moving around and changing, as scary as they are, it is a really good indication that the heart of what is causing your symptoms is this nervous system dysregulation. And when this is at the core of what's going on, that means there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You don't have a disease. You don't even have an illness. And it is all 100% reversible. And this is also one of the many reasons that we say talking about our symptoms too much or fixating on them too much really isn't helpful. And there are more reasons around that, such as it generates more fear and signals to your nervous system that something is still wrong. But the other part of that is that the symptoms can be all over the map. So this is why, and I still get so many people asking me in the comments on videos here or on posts and Instagram saying, well, what specific symptoms did you have? Tell me about your symptoms, because I want to know like if what worked for you is going to work for me, because it doesn't sound like you had this one symptom that I have. But when you have TMS or a functional condition or neuroplastic pain, whatever we want to call it, we all in this space need to agree on a term, but that's the least of our problems right now. We understand it. That's what matters. And comparing symptoms really doesn't get you anywhere. Another piece that's really important to understand with this is that it's really tempting to think that your journey to recovery is going to be somewhat linear. And it's almost become a cliche. Most of us are saying, you're like, I know, it's not going to be linear. I'm going to have like good days and bad days. But it's really, it's beyond that when we understand the symptom imperative, because as you are working your way past this and turning these symptoms off in your body, your brain and your nervous system stop generating these symptoms, they can re-pop up somewhere else as something different, because it's important to remember that your brain and nervous system are giving you these symptoms in an attempt to protect you, to alert you to something. It might be misguided. It's probably not helpful right now and actually just making your life much, much worse. But it doesn't care if you're happy or thriving or even comfortable. It just wants you to be safe. So you might be onto it. You're like, aha, I see that this one symptom, this back pain or this fatigue is a neuroplastic thing. And I'm doing the brain retraining and I'm getting rid of it. And then it's like, okay, she's onto that one or they're onto that one. So it moves it into something else. And then you start to feel like you're having a relapse or a step backwards, or you're not getting any better, or you have something new and scary that's just popped up, but it's normal and it's going to happen. And Nicole Sachs, who is an absolute guru in this space, who I recently interviewed, talks about in her book, Mind Your Body, that virtually, I'm paraphrasing, but every person who goes through this will have a dance with the symptom imperative. It is a natural and normal part of this process. People in this TMS space call it pain on the run, because it's moving around. Like you're trying to get rid of it. And it's like, okay, I'm going to come over here now. Okay, I'm going to disguise myself as this. And it's really interesting with my own journey, because I had chronic fatigue syndrome with all the classic symptoms. If you're wondering, look at any checklist online, and I pretty much had every one of those. And then I got past it. And then a couple of years later, I started having chronic back pain. So clearly, even though I had done the work and I had moved past those CFS symptoms, I hadn't done all of the work, because my nervous system was still trying to alert me to things, and it was just popping up and using new tools to get my attention and alert me in a new way. And your brain and your nervous system are going to give you symptoms that you believe. So my mother had chronic fatigue syndrome. Her mother had chronic fatigue syndrome. So this was a very believable thing for to happen in my life. But then when I got past it and I fully was 100% like this is in my past, I wasn't going to believe those symptoms anymore. So I had to come up with something new. And it's going to be the same for you. If your family has a history of migraines or, back pain or whatever it might be, it's going to come up with things that you're going to believe. If you had COVID or a vaccine recently, then a vaccine injury or long COVID is something that you were going to believe, and it's going to make sense. So just know that the symptoms really aren't that important, and it's really doing yourself a favor not to get caught up both in the diagnosis and also in the symptoms, and instead focus on the core of what's going on, and that is that nervous system regulation component, and that's what's going to get you past this. And the best part of experiencing this somewhat perplexing and incredibly frustrating condition of the symptom imperative is, as you see these different symptoms popping up and changing and moving around and coming and going, it solidifies your belief that there's actually nothing physically wrong with you. It's your nervous system at work. It's trying to alert you, and you can get it to turn these symptoms off. And most of the experts agree that the best way to do this is to work with your emotional reservoir, to re-regulate your nervous system and show it that it's okay to turn these symptoms off. And if you don't know what that means or how to do that, that is okay. You can join me in this next video where I walk you through exactly how to do that. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in this next video.